You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld, and I'm joined today by Carol Massa, Service Design Lead at Northwell Health, which is a really big healthcare network in New York State, my home state. Like enormous, right, Carol? Like how many people work at Northwell?
88,000.
88,000. That's like one of the biggest employers in New York State, I imagine.
Correct. Yes. In health systems, yes. It compares to nationwide other health systems at scale. So we do tend to serve, I think, more than 2 million people, more than that maybe. But we have more.
Yeah, I mean, it's enormous, and here you are, one person who's trying to make some things change there. So, folks, Carol is, has an interesting journey from being a design student at the School of what's SCAD stand for? I know it's in Savannah College of Art and Design. There we go, and through working at Harmonic in Atlanta, working in management consulting, and now working in a very different setting up here in New York at a healthcare network, Northwell. And she's also one of the presenters of a case study related to this work at Advancing Service Design, the inaugural edition of it, which I'm so excited that we're putting on December 3rd and 4th virtually. I hope it'll be on your radar. It's going to be a great conference, and Carol's a big reason why. So, Carol, in the warm-up, we were talking a little bit about service design in healthcare. And, it just seems like, well, of course. I mean, like, in healthcare is like one of the most important environments to do it in. I was asking, well, how is your work different than all the other kinds of service design going on in healthcare? Because it's like, God, if there's an industry that really needs to deliver services more effectively, it seems to be healthcare. What's the specialness about what you're all doing at Northwell?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in the first place. Really excited to be part of the conference. As we gear towards that, this podcast is going to give me the opportunity to articulate some of the key points. So hopefully those listening would be, excited and join us. So in terms of the work we've been doing at Northwell as designers and service designers, our team is very small. There's 5 of us in this.
So five of 88,000.
5 of 88,000.
Okay.
But we're inserted in what we're calling the operations engine of the company, which is the enterprise digital services. So in that engine, we serve almost as a shield for translating human insights and making sure we find ways to communicate that for a technological purpose. Most of our work in operations and in digital services has been to really explore the need and then translate that into even a playbook or a meeting that might really open up for opportunities that the business hasn't thought before, because they're just running business as usual.
So I'm hearing some interesting words here. I heard operations. I heard, I think you called it digital services. I heard research. You're communicating research to different people. That research is probably not originating with you, I'm guessing. There maybe are researchers doing that work.
Or consultant.
Or consultants in-house or otherwise, I'm sure. And then you said you're a shield of sorts, but you're probably also a translator of sorts. I kind of get the sense that you folks, your small group, are like this really important hunk of middleware in the organizational OS.
I love that. Yes, I would like to think so. We sometimes, our value has been perceived mostly from a qualitative standpoint at this time, but we are invited to be right at the forefront of discovery, right at the forefront of we have all this data. What do we do with it? What does that mean for that specific software or hardware, or even a facility's redesign? And what does that, what it should look like for providing optimal experiences, not only for patients, but also for the clinicians and the entire staff that we have supporting that encounter. And that's one of the pieces that I'll be diving into the talk, which I'm very excited about.
So like in the back of my mind, I was asking myself while you were talking earlier, like, okay, so you got these middleware people, and that's already sort of a rare role. That an organization would consciously have that role is pretty interesting, and I think actually pretty impressive. But also that I don't know about the rest of the other four of you, but that you're doing this as a service design person. And I was thinking, well, that's extra rare. You got this role of middleware, and they're putting a service design, at least one person bringing that toolkit to that role. But as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, I guess it really does make sense because, you know, that translation has to be through a lens that's broader than specific types of audiences, but more importantly, specific products. So panning back from thinking about specific products or technologies but looking at it more as at a service level seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because there are other capabilities in our micro team. We work with business strategists and engineers that can quickly prototype and test some emerging technology capabilities. So at the same time, we're translating and those needs into a tech stack or into a recommendation. There are other parts of our team that is able to put something together and have people react to it, which I think is super important. We are, a young team. It's only been a year and a half that we exist.
So who's on that team? Like, I mean, is it not? So not? Are you the only service designer on that team?
So there's 5 designers as a title. So there's me, there's myself, there's another person. She's more senior. She's focused on communications and research. We have a UX designer. We have a visual designer, and a director.
Okay.
And yeah, so the 5 of us, we come together, but we're also spread too thin. So we get placed across different instances of work and projects. I've been more focused on process design and building that translation from the needs to digital digital assets, and what that might look like. So providing playbooks and guidance to those who are owning the work moving forward.
Okay.
On the outskirts of our other 2, we call the 3-legged stool, very common metaphor in business. So there's design, there's business strategy, which is comprised of around, I would say, 6 to 7 members who write up business models and run through specific ideas to see how we would get some sort of ROI out of it. And that also depends on very specific requests as well. So think of us as catching all the unique things or the squishy things that don't make sense in the company. We're the ones trying to make sense of.
Do you have other components like I could see a role for, let's say, an enterprise architect. I could see a role for someone doing, especially in healthcare, compliance and legal work, or are those part of another organization?
We are all part of the same enterprise digital service team as a umbrella, but that part of legal, procurement, and enterprise architect, they're separate verticals. Our engineering team, however, they are very tied together with the enterprise architect, and they have a pretty good understanding of how the metadata works and where the data comes from. And there are multiple, electronic medical records that feed different types of information and data. So understanding that's where they take on and tell us what's feasible, what's possible.
So, like if you had an all hands meeting of the organization, it's the Enterprise Digital Service org. I'm really interested if, like, let's say you had an office all together and there was a bookshelf. Let's say it could be a combination of digital as well as print. What's on that shelf? Is it like, are there data dictionaries? Are there, you know, uh, stores of patient data? You mentioned playbooks. What's the sort of operational tools and documentation that you all use?
Yeah, I would say there are at least 5 to 6 different books. So we have a consumer data book. We have interoperability book. We have policies, clinical policies or clinical operations. We have the emerging technologies, AI related book. And we might also have a combination. Now I'm just clumping a lot of them together, but there might be also a combination of IT and infrastructure. So, and then our team spreads across, but it's mostly on emerging tech book, because on emerging tech, it allows us to come in and say, okay, let's think through things in a different way. Because all the other books or verticals, they already have a chapter, they already have an ending in a way of the way that they do the work. In our book, we kind of get to dictate a little bit what that looks like, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. So, just an extension of the bookshelf metaphor here. What's your role or your small team's role in terms of adding to that bookshelf? In other words, are you, everyone who's a knowledge worker of one type or another has to be looking ahead and understanding the change in the world, the change in industry, technology, and so forth. Is there something in particular that you're assigned to look out for? That could be maybe technologies, but it could also maybe be design methodologies. But what kind of makes it onto your radar as someone who's trying to really help solidify the performance of a enterprise digital service organization?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm going to try to explain it with a little bit around the world building framework. So when you're setting up that new world, what you need to do and build, like the type of culture, the type of landscape, the time, right? That you're trying to really get the ingredients of that world that you're building. That's where we get to play. We get to play into, there might come a request or an idea or an opportunity. So we step in and take a step back, actually step in to take a step back, to explore what that world might look like. And then we tell that with multiple stories or multiple recommendations to see which one might make more sense from an operational standpoint. And because we get to share or lay out the foundation, that work becomes part of everyone in a way, because everyone gets to apply that chapter to their own book. That's what I would.
So without like divulging anything and looking too much under the Northwell Health hood, can you give us an example
of how we come to build that world? Sure. So I'll actually test out the case study that I'm thinking about bringing to the talk, which is related to, we had a service line. So it's does not live in our enterprise digital services because the service line is right there at the forefront with the patient. And that service line, they have what they call navigators. So they are nurses, they're trained nurses that can provide that right hand for the patient as they go through their care journey. And they wanted to expand that capability and augment in a way that they would create a digital tool to help them do that. So we were in, as a joint collaboration, we were part of understanding what were the tasks that they were doing that could potentially be automated by a digital tool. So we not only identified that, but we also wanted to bring them to work on top of their license, to be, really emphasizing what they can do best, which is to be with the patient, to create that emotional connection, build that rapport. But because of all the admin tasks, they are not able necessarily to manage their time in the way that they want to, in the way that the business wants to, because of all the manual labor that is in administrative tasks. So what we were able to come in and study that, basically, almost like detectives, right? And then look at that and say, okay, this is a set of tasks we can automate and optimize, because they don't have to keep repeating that task manually. It can just be something of a goal where it's comprised with a set of tasks, and then you can just load it up in this digital tool where it's available to them, right? It's easy. It's connected to their workflow. They don't have to go anywhere else. So the way we created this playbook, this translation, was actually creating a future vision demonstration of what we call the workspace should look like. And we prototyped and created some stories, and we told that stories as they were clicking through the platform, so they could see how it would bring to life and how it would help their daily lives.
And these were nurses or their bosses or both?
Nurses, yeah.
Okay.
The tool was developed for this front and nurses, so they're right there. They're the front line. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. They're in the front line. They're calling the patient. They are the face of Northwell, right? They are there representing the service line. So because we have such a small team and they want to expand, but for you to expand, you also have to have your house in order. So we're helping them put a digital layer to help them augment that work.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that you're bringing it to them directly. That's why I was asking about the bosses, and that the bosses may be involved, but they're not the target here, and that's great to see. I have some other questions for you, but this is a good time to take a quick break. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. Our guest today is Carol Massa. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browse interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics, from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership, because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm talking with Carol Massa, Service Design Lead at Northwell Health, who finds herself in a really interesting place. I mean, it's a place in many senses, right? I mean, you're part of a team, like a pretty new team that spans many different silos and practices and perspectives inside a bigger organization, which is inside a really big organization. And I'm really interested in those types of settings because, when you're trying to get people to work together and you're trying to do that kind of translation, you kind of have to be something of a Rosetta Stone. I mean, let's just take healthcare, for example. It's not just an issue of understanding each other. Sometimes it's an issue of proving that you have the credentials to understand. Like, just as a personal experience, I used to do consulting for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. I know you used to live in Atlanta. I'm sure you're familiar with who they are. And I got nowhere as a consultant. I got nowhere because I didn't have any kind of scientific credentials. And the people who were making decisions there were, MD/PhDs. And so it didn't matter who I was, what I had to offer. It didn't matter. I don't know why they even hired me. So, I mean, like the kind of challenges in not only, who you are as a communicator, but what language you use to do that communication is really, really hard. And I'm wondering how that's gone for you. Maybe it's just me that finds it hard.
No, it's not easy. We all try different things every day. I can tell you what I found, what I consider to be not necessarily a success, but almost like a progression of some movement and momentum related to the example I was diving in a little bit earlier with the navigators in that workspace. What we were trying to do to help that translation, to bridge the gap of not only communication, but the language of the work, was actually repurpose one of the frameworks that developers are familiar with, which are problems, goals, and tasks. That's how they frame their Jira board. That's how they put the technical pipeline or backlog. So we leverage that to really tell the story of the need. So we incorporated, for example, instead of saying the goal is, as you would normally find when you're trying to break down a slide, it would be the goal of, I want to be able to have a drop-down menu. Mm-hmm. Let's just put it simply that way, to be patient needs emotional support for their chemo session. So we made it contextual to an action that the patient is doing. And then by making that contextual, the tasks of that navigator becomes action driven. So if they need emotional support, what do I have to do? Task 1, connect with them, check in with them. Task number 2, make sure we have the social determinants of health indicators, right, that support that, and the programs that we have to alleviate that specific support that they need at that time. So I'm just just scratching the surface here, but really bringing it to an action-driven problems, goals, and tasks instead of being problems, goals, and tasks for a technical deployment.
Yeah, I mean, just to repeat back what I think I've heard you say, tell me if I'm close. You leveraged an existing syntax, really, problems, goals, and tasks that was meaningful for one audience, but you used a context that was meaningful for the nurses or for the clinicians.
Their work,
and you put those two together, and that sounds brilliant.
Awesome.
Well, that's great. And now you can, go ahead. Yeah, well, now you could give them, and then the next time you talk to the developers, you can describe yourself as middleware, and that'll really totally nail things for you. One last question before we wrap. I'm really interested in an organization like yours and how. Well, I mean, I'm always interested in how, like, any kind of cost center came to be, like a enterprise digital services organization, but we probably don't have time to get into that history, or even how your group inside that organization came to be. I think, there's probably a pretty interesting story there as well. But I got to imagine when you're a service designer working inside a small, weird bunch of translators, Rosetta Stone types of people inside an enterprise digital service organization, that's probably changing all the time. I mean, like, it's probably being redefined about every year. That's like is that a bug or a feature? And how do you get through that?
I think it builds resilience,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be frustrating at times. But in terms of how I've been approaching it, and I feel like I'm trying to keep up too, because we learn with every movement and every change. We're ever evolving, right? As a design professional, people are not used to go do it. They like to have conversations. They like to have a very verbal communication type of relationship. So I've been leveraging that first instance of creating those relationships with people and just randomly pinging, sending them Teams message because I have that open channel and just asking a question. So now they'll have a name. Now they'll know who I am in a way. They know where I live in the organization, and they can come to me with another question. So from a simplistic way, that has kept me with some sort of a network that allows me to bring people together to ask specific things, and they also, because I do that, they also now have a channel, an open channel with me. And the other thing that I don't think people in the organization business as usual are used to doing is basically getting to do something quickly and even prototyping a slide that has words in it and has a quick visual on it. So I don't know if it's because there's this, I think it's just people are always with a lot of work. So they're trained to do a certain job. They're trained to achieve certain outcomes. And then with our practices, we come in and say, wait a minute, could we just try something really quick, really different, even if it's just a question?
Mm-hmm.
So that starts to bring up that whole channel, right, of something that they either haven't thought before, or sometimes they feel like they have to ask permission to do it. And we create that dynamic, which I think is interesting.
So I'm hearing really two pieces of advice. The first one is just humanize the crap out of everything, right? I mean, just close the gaps between people. Be one yourself. Put yourself in there. Put a face on an organization that might not otherwise make sense to people, but when they meet you and start to understand through you, it starts to make sense. The other piece of advice I heard you say, and correct me if I get any of this wrong, is help people engage with their own ideas by, doing things that you as a designer or anyone who kind of specializes in communications of any type might take for granted, which is like, oh, I think you're saying this. Can I draw a picture of it? I think you're trying to do that. Can I put that in a slide with some words on it? Whatever it might be, it sounds like you, in the process of doing what you have to do, translation, are helping them.
We're helping them see, right?
Exactly. You're just helping them see what they already know.
Exactly.
But, yeah. Fantastic. We got to wrap up, but we have time, not much, but time very quickly
I know.
for you to bring a gift. What'd you bring for our listeners?
Oh, well, I'm going to diverge a little bit from the world of healthcare and just share one of my passions, which is space science. And I actually learned a lot from space science. So if you have never seen a rocket launch, I highly encourage you. NASA has an open channel. I follow this Everyday Astronaut YouTube channel. Is this podcaster. He's amazing. He's an awesome translator from science to everyday people. That's why it's called Everyday Astronauts. And what they basically do, they narrate the launch for you, and you understand the different pieces that make up for the whole. And I think as designers, we can all learn from that and we can all refresh our memories of what that feels like. And then watching, any rocket launch that has a different purpose or a mission. The other day, they were launching a satellite that it's going to Jupiter and figuring out if there's life out there. It's very interesting how all these people come together with a specific goal in mind, that the goal is clear, but the way to get there is about trial and error. And of course, there's a whole scientific protocol, and they have probably 1,000 ways of fixing issues and problems, which makes us, at least for me, my lesson when I see those things, when things don't go the way that it's supposed to go, they have a second or a third protocol. So they're always, in a way, service recovering. It's one of my favorite words too. Service recovering and trying to go through a different way to find a solution. But yeah, that's what I would say.
That Everyday Astronaut, have to on YouTube. And I just love this because it echoes a lot of what we were talking about. You have a lot of different kinds of people involved in a rocket launch. They're not all rocket scientists. Right. And they have to work together, and there are protocols, and it takes probably a lot of thought, a lot of process work, but also probably a lot of humanizing, like you were suggesting. So, Carol, this is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to hearing more from you about your case study and the work you're doing at Northwell Health when you present at Advancing Service Design. Again, folks, it's a virtual conference. You should be there. Carol's talking about protocols for when things don't go well. We have all like three layers of protocol in case our speakers' connections go down. Believe me, it's like a rocket launch. But Carol will be speaking on December 3rd. It's a 2-day conference, goes through the 4th. We hope to see you there. Carol, thanks again for joining us. It's great to talk with you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to seeing everyone online on December 3rd and 4th.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.